Hello, Internet, and thank you very much for tuning in again to CloudNativeFM YouTube podcast. Recently, we conducted a London Tech Week show, and if you've gone through some of the previous video, you have seen we have actually recently conducted 4 hours of live coverage of London Tech Week as well. Thanks to my wonderful friend who joined me while he was there in person in the Olympia, London, and we have covered some wonderful topics. And we spent across a lot of debates during the AI conversations around agentic orchestration, proliferation of a agentic tool. Some of the platform engineering we've seen is getting a really adopted these days. As the customer was speaking there when we joined the booth from Dell. In analytics intelligence and scale and bunch of other booths we visited during the London Tech Week as well. But today, I'm this is very special day because I'm joined by one of the Oh, really sorry, friends. I think I disconnected just because I clicked the wrong button there, and then some updates went through in my some of the Sorry for that. But let's give a quick summary here. What we're trying to cover today as well. So today is we're talking about the rise of AI platform engineering. We'd like to call it with SuperPlane as well. And the core story of this episode is about today's operational complexity is pushing team beyond scripts and pipeline. Superplanes own launch material says still stitch together brittle script on one of the CI jobs, GitOps, and manual approval. And that the platform engineering exists to replace the tribal knowledge with the shared control plane. And that's with the discussion we'll be having today with my wonderful guest today, who'll be waiting very long to be appeared on the podcast as well. Is today is be joining by Darko Fabijan, the CEO of SuperPlane, and the thank you very much, Darko. This is your very first appearance on this YouTube show. Sorry for a little bit more weight on the behind the scene, but over to you.
No
Give us a
worries.
quick summary of where you are, what things you have been developing on the recent days, and anything about the super plane as well.
Yeah, great to be on the show. Thank you for having me. Yeah, like a
Awesome.
super brief intro on myself. So I have been in Linux world since like 90s. It was like a Red Hat and Slackware back then. Did like a computer science like from 2003 to 2008, and did also some hardware back in the days. And yeah, joined the SaaS party in those 2010s, and transitioned into continuous integration, continuous delivery. Did that for about 10 years through Semaphore.io, my previous company, and there was like a super close to DevOps, platform engineering, SRE, all those kinds of disciplines that are some newer, some older. And since like about a year ago, I have been focusing on SuperPlane. So SuperPlane is a platform where we enable AI agents and DevOps people and platform engineers to collaborate. Yeah, it's going to be launched in beta in like 10 days or so. It is also open source under Apache 2 license, so people can go ahead and check it out even today. And yeah, I would be happy to elaborate on various details on what's the problem we are trying to solve and how it relates to platform engineering and all the AI rage.
Oh, absolutely. And I think Darko, you have also been part of the Semaphore project back in the days as well. I'm
Yeah,
happily able to work with some of the customers back in the days who actually been using Semaphore. We heard very great things about that Semaphore as well. So little bit, a very few things, a story behind how your life goes there in the Semaphore as a CEO, and also how you have when you think about transitioning from Semaphore, and what
yeah.
motivated you to spin up a new kind of a new project that's called superplane.com.
Sure, absolutely. So, yeah, as I said, spent like 10 plus years, working with mainly product companies where our customers, product companies with maybe 50 plus engineering teams, but some were also like people from Confluent, people behind Apache Kafka. That's like almost a 2,000 people, engineering org. Um, as I said, working with DevOps team, teams that just help, ship the code, as fast as possible. And I think that the moment that we realize that we need to do something more is, I would say, maybe January 2025. That's by purely looking at the stats. We saw that for our existing customers at Semaphore, the number of pull requests were growing, the size of those pull requests were growing. Also, the fail rates were, going kind of up and down. And that was a signal for us that, AI has to do something with that, because we also had the insight and spoke with people. We know that engineering teams were about the same size as previously. Now, roughly speaking, year and a half later, we know that AI is writing like a lot of code, not to say what the percentages, I don't know, but we all know what the reality is, and we all know where trajectory is going. And even back then, we heard from customers there, team potentially, 250 people engineering team, shipping monolithic application, great product with great velocity. But once you increase one variable by 2x or 3x, other parts of the system start breaking in a way. Not necessarily that those other parts are, necessarily in some, super bad shape, but they were just not made for that scale. So as the team started shipping, roughly speaking, 2 times, more code, the failure, increases, and then you have to pull the brakes, then you have to clear, solve the problem in the production so you can keep shipping. And if you imagine, shipping code from 250 engineers, let's say that only 20% of them is going to ship on that very day, you still have a lot of code to ship and a lot of pull requests to merge and progress into the production. And that is the area where we saw the need for introduction of some AI. I also like to explain it like there is a dam, and water fills up, and eventually we deploy things, and it keeps flowing. But when it starts overflowing, and the other parts of the system experience the pressure. And speaking on the introduction of the AI into the production system, is that operating production systems. I mean, there are like two ways today. One is the read-only access, and that's a great thing to do. I would classify most, if not all, of the AI SRE response platforms today, and that they to a large extent have like only read-only access to the production system logs and all of that. They acquire like big enough contacts, they can give a good advice, and they toss it over to LLMs. But then engineers get advice, and they have to go out and perform actions in the production environments. The thing that what we are trying to solve is how do you give your AI agents access to the production environments, but in a right mode, so they can also make changes, and how is that going to evolve? um, I like to say it is in the category of inevitable. So AI agents are going to operate production. I'm not saying that we have all the answers of how that's going to be. It's going to be very iterative, Availability, uptime is the most important thing, not to mention, the security and, protecting of the data. But it has to go up, and we have to give some control over time to agents that they can perform some actions. It can start from literally scaling up and down pod from 2 to 5, and from 5 to 2 on which is maybe not even the AI use case, but it is a very simple example. And then it's going to progress. And there we have the answer, how to do that. So essentially, SuperPlane has a fully durable execution engine, which is fully deterministic, that you can generate. You can have workflows that you are offering to your AI agents, what they can do, so they can potentially scale the database up. They can perform various actions on database, but definitely deleting database, deleting table, or anything of that is not one of those actions. However, some other less critical ones are. So that is it on the very high level. But I would love to answer any questions that you might have.
Oh yes, absolutely, 100%. I think the all the things you're mentioning here is being really resonated with all the developers who actually joined us or watching us anywhere from the world. Because right now we're living in a time where the development actually is integrated operational capabilities as well. The developer is not like, oh, you write code and then somebody else is shipping it for you. Now you need to embed YAML files. That's where the infrastructure code has been written there. You spun up the LLM ports, you spin up the load balancer ports, you spin up the configuration, the databases, where the services run on AWS, and AWS adds its own configuration. So developers actually going through all of these processes and actually praying, when will be the day comes in my life I will actually be offloaded from these activities. And luckily, with the AI push, we have the cloud code, the agenting capability. We see the pattern like agent to agent communication. We see the pattern like MCP protocol. But that raises a very important question: who does what, and when it's happened? Who was the primary cause to actually spin up did PR, or who is actually causing something broken and then the fix appearing tomorrow? Who actually caused that? We don't have answer. Agent doing some wonderful work, but I think the structure is laggy. The structure is missing all of the corner pieces as well. And when I look at the super plane, when we have an offline meeting, I see it has some very good resonating answer to that as well. So the dark, just give us, if somebody really new to some of the, how you describe the agent, number one, the question is, and how the super plane works for the agent communication. What patterns you have been adopted? Are you seeing agent to agent communication, MCP protocol, how the dashboard actually be giving, visualizing access to that? So give us a very quick glimpses of what the super plane is all about for some of the AI native engineers.
Absolutely. So you can see SuperPlane is a platform built for, humans and AI agents. Historically, all these, platforms that help with, various, cloud operations, infrastructure operations, have been built specifically for humans. What we are doing differently is that, from the get-go, we really started, with our development roughly 6-7 months ago. We have, said, okay, AI agent is going to also be the first class citizen of the system, meaning that it can, control, various parts of the system to a way that is native to it. So I would say our focus right now is, let's say, making a platform that is 50% great for human operators, 50% for agents, or focusing on both of those, and enabling that, interplay, that, I do some things and I offload some things to my AI agent. What we see with our internal built-in agent is that it can do, roughly speaking, 20% of what junior DevOps engineer can do. It can create, various workflows. It can analyze, various patterns, and it can help, automate various things with your infrastructure. So over time, what we see is that more and more of that, tribal knowledge, internal, playbooks that are maybe not updated and so on, end up living and being codified and being executed through the superplane. So that's like a kind of a central nervous system. And I like to explain the one of the values. You are onboarding a new DevOps engineer. You bring them to superplane. So there are a set of like apps and workflows. You see who is running what, under which conditions, how it was triggered. And it's a central observability platform for both people and the AI. A second element of the AI is that we have a very rich API, which exposes like all the primitives, all the integrations, all the workflows that are mapped with the correct permissions to your AI agent. And you could bring tomorrow your Claude or Codex, you give it our CLI or API or MCP, and you point with the correct service account to SuperPlane, which you can host yourself. It's under Apache 2 license. You can run it yourself, or you can use our cloud SaaS version. And essentially, agent describes the infrastructure, see what are the elements that exist, and what are the actions it can perform. So onboarding both humans and AI agent is a big thing of the story.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And I think these days, Darko, I see that we've seen the agent proliferation is happening. Like they are everywhere in the corner. And we have different teams in our organization. We have security teams, we have developers teams, we have platform engineering, and we have HR in as well. We have FinOps team, and then the CIO and CIO have our level of kind of a capabilities, what they want. And we see every agent doing a little bit of it. We can write code for you. We can do a review testing for you. We spin up some cluster and we scan the cluster. If there's any open ports available in there, we can close down to make sure the security vulnerabilities won't arise. And if you spin up and then there's a scanners who can actually modify the code and can give you the remediation of those steps, and then there's some agentic capability for the observability and the metrics point of view as well. So it's all
Yeah.
neat. Everybody is actually able to live with the flow what they like to do it. But the end of the day, if we lost the value, like we need a visual board like who can tell us a single pane of glass, like who does what, when does happen, what's the things actually agent does best and what the thing that agent goes very bad at it, so we can actually make some kind of a matrix. And I think in general we see there's a measurement or a crisis in the AI, that AI is doing all of the work, but we don't have the matrix. What sort of the work is good at? What sort of the matrix is bad at? We know the LLM give you all kind of capabilities, but you need to fine tune which the environment you are running is at the capability to do that as well. So I like the approach where the SuperPlane is actually taking. I think really right now the development onboarded is a very problematic problem right now. We have Kubernetes cluster, we have some container runnings, we have some load balancer, and the new junior developers come say, oh, which command I need to run? And I would love to see if SuperPlane or any other tool actually shrink the time frame so development start and in a very faster way, because we're stuck in the infrastructure loop cycle. It's been very sophisticated sector. So Darko, is there any, like, if you want to give some demos or anything, a little example so people can see in an action words things, how things are working, that up to you, and then we actually ask few questions during that time.
Absolutely. Let me bring a couple of screens, and I can show what SuperPlane is, and it should bring more context to the uh,
Yes. Absolutely. While
to the
Darko
story.
is sharing his screen, here's a link for you, what we need to talking about today as well. Superplane.com. That's a very easy URL to remember. You can go there, you can find all the information as Darko speak about. So open source under the Apache license, you can grab all the information from there. So here's the, I think I can see your screen now, Darko,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
comprehensively. Hopefully, if audience can see the screen as well. Let us know if you weren't able to see the screen. We can adjust things up. For me, it's working very properly. So over to you, Darko. Give us some very quick demos of few setups.
Absolutely. So the key entity that exists in SuperPlane is a SuperPlane app. And you can see that these apps can be clustered. Through these apps, you can model various workflows, expose various, APIs to your agents and people. The ultimate idea is that when you are onboarding a DevOps engineer or an AI agent, that doesn't matter, they come here and they are not relying anymore on some, always partially rotten documentation and things that have been, ran in various ways and various tools. But this is a single place where you can find all of the workflows that you're running. On the very high level, let me just introduce you to the concept that exists in SuperPlane. So maybe if I would just go ahead and create a new app. So the first thing is the canvas. So this is the durable workflow execution engine. You can create things here with the AI agent. You can describe, hey, I need to, model my blue-green deployment process to my, let's say, Kubernetes cluster. And it goes ahead and it builds that for you here in the real time. So this is the component that you can see as pretty much as a cursor for DevOps specifically. The control layer and durable execution engine relies on the set of components that we have implemented. It can be extended. So some generic components such as, schedule, webhooks, approval processes. Let's say if I say that I need to approval from a role or an engineer, from a specific engineer. So I have that. Let's say that I want to trigger that through, let's say, a webhook. I can introduce that component, connect these two together. And this is backed by a version YAML that exists within the app. So it's here, it's being written as we speak. Or as I said, it can be created through an AI agent. So that's the first, that's a low-level circuitry here. You have the runs and versions of the canvas, and then you have the console. So you can view this as like a user interface building moment where you can visualize what's happening on your canvas. You have memory, which is kind of like an built-in database where components can store various data points and files. Files are backed by a Git, which is currently backed by an internal Git implementation, but it will be also possible to sync this to your GitLab or GitHub repositories. If I go to maybe a little bit more concrete examples, and perhaps before going there, I can share that there are like over 400 components available here, and you can connect them to your services. So I don't know, potentially most prominent one, you can connect it to your PagerDuty, you can connect it to your Prometheus, you can definitely integrate it with GitLab or GitHub and manually or automatically approve and organize these workflows. If I jump back, so the concept of the app is that you can also install apps, and we are in the process of creating these apps, which are pre-built environments, pre-built setups that you can use to get you started much quicker. So here we have a preview environment app, which helps you ship, let's say, from GitHub to AWS. If I, okay, there is that's a beta stage software. Let's see if this one will work. Okay, cannot demo that. Let's go back. So one super simple example app is that we have an app which is collecting and aggregating the cost information. Here, if I jump to a console that we have built, we have some data points here that we can visualize about the cost of the LLM costs across the app. Let me jump back and show another app, which is about having a preview environments. Sorry about that. So going back, here we call it ephemeral machines. So here is a flow that we have modeled, where on pull request being open, we send an intro message about availability of spinning ephemeral environments. Then on SP start command, if the maintainer, if the person who is opening a pull request is also maintainer, we essentially go ahead and model the flow, which is going to execute, which is going to spin up that environment in a comment, give back the URL to that preview environment. I mean, this is one example of the use cases which can be modeled very easily through an internal agent, or you point your Claude or Codex to a SuperPlane API, and it can create these kinds of workflows for you. So that is it in the nutshell, what SuperPlane is and the types of workflows that you can define. So from release processes to incident response, to, for instance, managing your OpenClaw agents, where on the console you can see, your OpenClaw agents, how they can be managed, started, upgraded, restarted, and it's a custom app built specifically for your use case.
Oh,
Let me stop
absolutely.
here.
You know,
Perhaps answer
it's
any of the questions.
Oh, wonderful! I think it's right, very resonating as well. I'm just recapping the things you actually describe here, and then we actually see my assumption was correct. Let's say if I'm a developer and I want to spin up some PR on the Git repository, during that time I have some cluster set up, the pre-built environment. I can drag, drop on the canvas some of the workflow engine, and in the workflow engine I see the console, I can see the version, I can run the commit, I have the in-memory data, I can see the files in there, I can edit some of the configuration of the YAML file in there. So that's where, and then you have a very visual approval board. That's where you see like this action is performed by agent or the human. If the performing, if it's done by the human or agent, we have an approval category, which team it belongs to. Do I give a read permission? You give it a write permission to that. So within that one click of a button, you are very assured that right side of privileges has been assigned to the AI or the human. So that's approval. Whatever the action need, kind of a capability, it just need a let's have set a one approval run to do it. So it's not kind of a surprises on the fly because you already given the permission that it's actually been required. So is it a right way to think about the whole process?
Exactly, exactly. That's the that's the insight that people would need to be comfortable with agents performing actions. Same is with humans. You onboard like a junior devs person, just someone who is new to the team. You're going to have some, set of approval process like in place. What person can perform based on the role, and we want to introduce that for the agents also. with
Okay.
treating them as a first-class citizen to say of the system. And as you said, agent tags performed this under these, conditions with these, policies, and potentially got approval from this human. So that's the first step. The second step is to have these, agents built specifically for your apps, and you can tweak them. You can take the system prompt. You can explain it what you care about, and this as compared to the development process, you develop your code, you are done, you operationally take care of it. And then you have these operational, agents that are maintaining these things, which is alive 24/7. And
Oh,
through
awesome.
being always on, that agent learns and expands its capabilities over time. And you can also bring your own agent, and iterate on it and develop it. So we give you the platform to be successful in that process.
I just have one kind of a question. Like, uh, can we see that, like, if the DevOps people can set up some of the pipeline already for the developer? Like, I would like to see this as a very crucial piece to my infrastructure workflows. Like, as I'm a developer, DevOps team who can actually build out some workflows for the developers, and then developers can inside the canvas add the kind of agent what they want from the toolkit from the provider you have already listed inside the canvas, and then the developers say this agent can assign need these kind of privileges, and that's where the DevOps team can actually add those permission inside it. So it's kind of a very unique collaboration point for both of the developers and the DevOps team, because currently the problem is developers has their own agent and the DevOps team has their own agent, and they sometimes collide and override with each other, and that's where the sophisticated forensic happening in the flow as well. So I really like that approach as well. Just one final piece of the puzzle is that if you have already application developed and running inside your organization, what sort of superplane is actually giving? What sort of the workflow for superplane to integrate those existing application inside the canvas, and then people start working from there?
Yeah, I mean the approach that we have is we are speaking with teams and figuring out how we can help them is we ask, okay, what are number three pain points that you are facing, and then we see from there what are the main things that we can help you with. So I mean there is it's important not to fix what is not broken,
Oh,
only
yes.
improve what do you need. And what we see are like two main use cases. So giving more control and power to your development team to creating like internal platform, and that is that platform engineering practice. So those people try to empower the people developers like as much as possible without breaking the production and controlling having the keys and maintaining the uptime. The other is AI SDLC process. So how can developers ship code much faster than they used to? And it ties into the category of again managing risk and how we can build the dashboards and canvases and workflows so that people can ship their pull requests faster and more safely, introduce control the risk. That is one domain where we are actively exploring how we can help people, essentially people creating pull requests, figuring out with Superplane, classifying those based on the risk factor of doing something in the production system, and then figuring out what kind of changes do you have and how you can approve them more quickly and ship them more safely. Just to give an example, so changing a copy on a button is a very different kind of pull request to a pull request which is actually executing migration on the database.
Oh,
So
yes.
let's make sure that we classify those and then we ship them into production. Everyone knows that today it's possible to just overnight close 20 bugs or create 20 pull requests. You just give it agent tickets and it's going to do it. But who is going to verify that, test it, and make sure that it can be shipped to production, which is another piece of the puzzle that we are solving.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Just a final few questions before we wrap up the conversation. You said like you will be launching. It's going to GA, or there's a launch happening in this month, particularly. What sort of the explore sort of the features, the early beta, early feature that exist inside the SuperPlane in the first launch. And then the next question is, what sort of kind of what the roadmap is like? You have want to add what sort of roadmap for the user who wanted to test and try out SuperPlane coming down the years?
Yeah, I mean, we are launching, we have a launch week on June 22nd, when we are going to launch the beta version of the product. I mean, this is the product which is touching production in, many ways. People would definitely iteratively try it and, introduce it into their systems. We are planning to really work hands-on with, like as many people as possible to make sure that can be tested in pre-production environments before it hits the GA. So GA is probably planned by, you know, early September. And we want to make sure that once we put the GA stamp on it, it's really stable, production stable. So there are no failures, no surprises, as we don't want to disappoint any of the people who are entrusting their production environments to us. So it is a process which is going to take a while, but we really want to see product maturing. We have, various design partners, including, Confluent. As I mentioned previously, people behind Apache Kafka who are like, testing it, running it in the pre-production systems, and we are just, waiting for it to mature and to be in the state to go GA. In terms of the beta features, so we have the agent currently, which is in the builder mode, so it can build these canvases for you, like on the fly, or ahead of time. You develop and you speak to it, and it creates these canvases for you. The other agent mode that we'll be introducing is this operational mode agent, which is observing what's happening in your production from various metrics that it can see, logs and so on, and help you improve and make sure that your pipelines are running smoother. And then there is the element of creating these SuperPlane apps, where they will be open source apps. Also, ideally, in weeks and months ahead, we'll have dozens, then hundreds and thousands eventually of apps of that people create themselves, share it like online, and it's like a community where you can grab your instant response app, your preview environments app, or app for whatever use case you need. So yeah, there are like a couple of things that need to converge and make sure that they speak to each other in a very well way, for us to just get the adoption going.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I would like to meet you again, Darko, because when the launch coming up, we'll see what sort of the features comes up, what sort of the business model actually been you've been developing for some of the customer as well, some of the traction point we see. But I think all in general, the demos you showed to us and the conversation we had, this is one of the universal problem right now. Agent proliferation, we having a very hard time of understanding like where the agent is running and who's calling the agent and what calling the agent in itself. So it's so much of the pain point industry we have. Luckily, with tools like SuperPlane come into the play, who can give us the orchestration layer we like to call it, who can give us some sort of an internal developer platform for the platform engineering team, who can build out some portals or some kind of the APIs or the UI for the developers that they basically take control of and make sure that something has been running under very fine privileges, and what sort of the privileges they need. You should have that rather than filing a ticket and asking for the permission. It's causing a lot of the delays as well. And if you give the full permission to any agent, like agent or human, you are already deteriorated with your infrastructure as well. So I really like the SuperPlane approach has been taking, and have some very good wishes in the near future, like where the project is maturing and heading towards to as well. Just a final question for Darko: what are some of your key recommendation for anybody listening to our conversation? What's your recommendation for those people who are really new to the AI and still wanted to test SuperPlane? How they can interact with you, how they can call you, what sort of the meeting, how they can set up a meeting with you. So can you give us some summary of that?
Absolutely. So Discord.superplane.com is probably the easiest way to join our community, and you can find me there or any of the team members. Of course, going to superplane.com and going to our GitHub projects from there, and opening an issue or starting conversation there. That's another way. Right now, the best way is to, if you want to try the products, to download it, try it yourself. The agent is not currently available there, so that's the only downside. But we can probably give you like super early beta access if you ping us, and we would be happy to welcome you to our platform. We are essentially just polishing and ironing out various paper cuts and smaller bugs. But yeah, those are the ways to get in touch. And yeah, would love to speak about the topic as you have been yeah, on multiple occasions, stressing out. This is like a new age, a new time, and the way that software is developed is changing fundamentally. So let's discover how to do it, in the best way possible together.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the first thing you people should know, this project exists in the landscape as well. So today you find out the Superplane is one of the tool who can actually give you the very good time with your engineering and DevOps and developer practices as well. Go to the superplane.com, and I also include the link in the YouTube description. And you can also find out Darko on the LinkedIn as well. So it's you can find out, and we'll talk more about it as well. So the I think what during the London Tech Week, we find out the big theme is like AI is now wanted to run in a way that we run in a very safeguarded, in a controlled environment as well. And luckily, we have solution now that can give us that kind of a leverage for that. If you have any question for Darko around the Superplane project, please add them in as comments below on the YouTube. We'll try our best to answer some of the questions you have for the product, or any recommendation you wanted to add for the project is all being very valuable and appreciable. So thank you very much for tuning in to the Cloud Native FM podcast. Looking forward to meeting you again in the near future, and meeting you again. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye bye.